Before I start the story, I want to tell you to subscribe because only 2% are subscribers, and at 1,000 subscribers I will post a special video. The wasteland stretched out endlessly, a barren expanse of cracked earth and jagged rocks under the oppressive heat of twin suns. The air shimmered with the intensity of the midday heat, distorting the horizon and making it difficult to discern where the ground ended and the sky began. It was in this desolate place that Kira lay, her body battered and broken, a small, fragile figure against the vast emptiness. Kira was an alien, a member of a race known for their agility and delicate, almost ethereal features. Her silver hair, now matted with dirt and blood, fell in disarray around her face. Her once pristine white robes were torn and stained, and her normally vibrant violet eyes were dull with pain and exhaustion. She had been left here, abandoned by her own kind after a disastrous skirmish with a rival faction. The wounds she had sustained were severe, and she knew she would not survive much longer without help. But help was a rare commodity in the wasteland. The few travelers who dared to cross it were often more interested in scavenging for resources than in offering aid to a dying stranger. Kira's chances of rescue were slim, and she knew it. Yet she clung to life, driven by a fierce determination not to give up. Not yet. As the suns began their slow descent towards the horizon, casting long shadows across the landscape, a distant hum broke the silence. Kira's ears, sensitive and attuned to the slightest sound, picked up the noise immediately. She strained to lift her head, peering through the haze to locate the source. The hum grew louder, closer, until she could make out the silhouette of a vehicle moving towards her. Hope flared briefly in her chest, only to be tempered by caution. The wasteland was full of dangers, and not all who roamed it were friendly. She struggled to push herself into a sitting position, wincing as pain shot through her limbs. Her breath came in shallow gasps, and she fought to stay conscious. The vehicle drew nearer, and Kira could see that it was an old, battered land speeder, its once shiny surface now dulled by dust and rust. It came to a stop a few meters away from her, and the hum of its engine died down. For a moment, there was only silence. Then the door opened, and a figure stepped out. He was human, that much was clear. Tall and broad-shouldered, with a weathered face and sharp, piercing blue eyes. His clothes were practical and worn, suited for survival in the harsh environment. A blaster hung at his hip, a reminder that caution was always necessary in the wasteland. The man approached her slowly, his gaze assessing the situation. Kira watched him warily, too weak to do anything else. When he was close enough, he knelt beside her, his expression a mixture of concern and curiosity. "You're hurt," he said, his voice surprisingly gentle. "Can you understand me?" Kira nodded weakly, her throat too dry to speak. The man reached into a pouch at his belt and produced a canteen, offering it to her. She took it gratefully, sipping the cool water and feeling it revive her slightly. "What's your name?" he asked. "Kira," she managed to whisper. "I'm Marcus," he replied. "What happened to you, Kira?" She took another sip of water before answering, her voice barely above a whisper. "Ambushed. My people left me here." Marcus frowned, his gaze scanning her injuries. "You're in bad shape. We need to get you out of here." Kira's eyes filled with tears of relief and gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered. With surprising gentleness, Marcus lifted her into his arms and carried her to the land speeder. He settled her into the passenger seat, securing her with the safety harness. As he climbed into the driver's seat and started the engine, Kira felt the last of her strength ebb away. She slumped against the seat, barely conscious but filled with a new sense of hope. For the first time since the ambush, she allowed herself to believe that she might survive this ordeal. The land speeder sped across the wasteland, leaving a trail of dust in its wake. Marcus kept a careful eye on Kira, his mind racing with questions. Who was she? Why had her people abandoned her? And what dangers lay ahead on their journey? For now, those questions would have to wait. The immediate priority was getting Kira to safety and finding medical help for her injuries. Marcus knew of a small settlement not too far from here, a place where they might find the assistance they needed. He pushed the land speeder to its limits, determined to reach the settlement before nightfall. As the suns dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Marcus glanced at Kira. She was unconscious, her breathing shallow but steady. He couldn't help but feel a sense of protectiveness towards her, this fragile being who had been left to die in the wasteland. They reached the settlement just as the first stars began to appear in the night sky. It was a small, ramshackle place with makeshift buildings and narrow, dusty streets. But it was home to a few hardy souls who had chosen to eke out a living in this harsh environment. Marcus guided the land speeder to a halt in front of a low building with a faded sign that read, Med Bay. He climbed out and carefully lifted Kira into his arms once more. The door to the med bay opened, and a middle-aged woman in a white coat stepped out, her expression one of surprise and concern. "Marcus, what have you brought me this time?" Kira awoke to the soft glow of artificial light and the faint hum of medical equipment. For a moment she was disoriented, her mind struggling to piece together where she was and how she had gotten here. The last thing she remembered was the wasteland, the relentless heat, and the human who had found her. As her vision cleared, she saw Marcus sitting by her bedside, his expression a mixture of relief and concern. He noticed her stirring and leaned forward, his blue eyes meeting her violet ones. "How are you feeling?" he asked gently. Kira tried to speak, but her throat was dry. Marcus quickly offered her a glass of water, helping her drink. The cool liquid soothed her parched throat, and she managed a weak smile. "Better," she croaked. "Thank you." Marcus nodded, his gaze softening. "You've been through a lot, but you're safe now. We're in a settlement called Dusthaven. Marta, the medic here, has been taking care of you." Kira glanced around the room, noting the sterile white walls and the various medical devices. Her body still ached, but the pain was more bearable now. She could feel the bandages wrapped around her wounds, a testament to the care she had received. "How long have I been here?" she asked, her voice stronger. 2 days, Marcus replied. "You were in pretty bad shape when I found you. Marta did an amazing job patching you up." Kira closed her eyes briefly, letting the information sink in. She had survived, against all odds, and it was all thanks to this human who had shown her kindness when her own people had abandoned her. "Why did you help me?" she asked, opening her eyes to look at him. Marcus shrugged, a small smile playing on his lips. "Seemed like the right thing to do. Couldn't just leave you out there to die." His simple, honest answer touched Kira more than she could express. In her world, such altruism was rare. The aliens were a proud and often ruthless race, valuing strength and loyalty above all else. The fact that a stranger had risked his own safety to save her was something she would not soon forget. "Thank you," she said again, her voice filled with sincerity. Marcus waved off her gratitude. "No need to thank me. Just focus on getting better. Marta says you'll need a few more days of rest before you're strong enough to travel." Kira nodded, feeling a sense of peace for the first time in days. She was safe, at least for now, and she had a chance to recover. As she settled back against the pillows, she couldn't help but wonder what the future held. She was far from home, in a place where she knew no one, and she had no idea what her next step should be. The days passed in a blur of rest and recovery. Marcus visited often, bringing her meals and talking with her to keep her spirit. She told him about the ambush, about the rival faction that had attacked her convoy, and about how she had been left behind when her comrades fled. It was a painful story to recount, but Marcus listened without judgment, offering quiet support. Marta, the medic, proved to be a skilled healer and a kind soul. She checked on Kira regularly, changing her bandages and administering treatments to speed up her recovery. Under Marta's care, Kira's strength gradually returned, and she began to feel like herself again. One evening, as the sun set and cast a warm glow over the settlement, Kira and Marcus sat outside the med bay, enjoying the cool breeze. The air was filled with the sounds of people going about their daily routines, a comforting backdrop to their conversation. "What's your plan now?" Marcus asked, breaking the comfortable silence. Kira sighed, looking out at the horizon. "I don't know. I need to find my people, but I don't even know where to start. They could be anywhere by now." Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "The wasteland is a big place, and finding them won't be easy, but I can help you if you want." Kira turned to look at him, surprised. "Why would you do that? You've already done so much for me." Marcus shrugged again, a hint of a smile on his lips. "I guess I like having you around. Besides, I've got nothing better to do." His casual tone belied the sincerity of his offer, and Kira felt a surge of gratitude. She had been prepared to face this journey alone, but the thought of having someone like Marcus by her side was reassuring. "Thank you," she said softly. "I would appreciate your help." "Then it's settled," Marcus said, clapping his hands together. "We'll set out in a few days, once you're fully recovered. In the meantime, we can gather supplies and plan our route." Kira nodded, feeling a sense of purpose for the first time since the ambush. She still had a long way to go, but with Marcus's help, she felt confident that she could find her way back to her people. As they sat together in the fading light, Kira couldn't help but reflect on how much her life had changed in such a short time. She had been wounded and abandoned, left to die in the wasteland. But now, thanks to the kindness of a stranger, she had a chance to rebuild her life and find her way home. And perhaps along the way, she would discover that not all humans were as different from her people as she had once thought. In Marcus, she had found a friend, and in Dusthaven, a temporary sanctuary. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, Kira felt a glimmer of hope. The next few days were a flurry of activity as Kira and Marcus prepared for their journey. Marta provided them with medical supplies and rations, while Marcus scoured the settlement for any useful items they might need. Kira spent her time regaining her strength, determined to be ready for the challenges ahead. On the morning of their departure, the settlement gathered to see them off. Kira was touched by the warmth and support of these strangers, who had welcomed her into their community without hesitation. "Take care of yourself, Kira," Marta said, giving her a hug. "And don't—" The journey through the wasteland was arduous, filled with challenges that tested Kira and Marcus's resilience and resolve. The landscape was ever-changing, shifting from desolate plains to rocky outcrops and treacherous ravines. The days were blistering hot, the nights bitterly cold, and the threat of predators and hostile factions loomed constantly. Despite these hardships, Kira found strength she didn't know she possessed. Her determination to find her people and return home drove her forward, and Marcus's steady presence provided a source of comfort and stability. They made a formidable team, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. One evening, as they set up camp under the starlit sky, Marcus turned to Kira, his expression thoughtful. "Tell me more about your people, Kira. What are they like?" Kira hesitated, the memories of her home bittersweet. "The aliens are proud and honorable. We value strength and loyalty above all else. Our society is highly structured, with strict hierarchies and codes of conduct." Marcus nodded, poking at the campfire with a stick. "Sounds like a tough place to live." "It can be," Kira admitted, "but it's also beautiful. Our cities are built into the cliffs, blending seamlessly with the natural landscape. We have a deep connection to our environment and a rich cultural heritage." Marcus smiled, his eyes reflecting the firelight. "I'd like to see it someday." Kira's heart swelled with warmth at his words. "Maybe you will. Once we find my people, you're welcome to come with me." They fell into a comfortable silence, the crackling of the fire and the distant calls of nocturnal creatures creating a soothing backdrop. Despite the challenges they faced, moments like this reminded Kira of the beauty that could be found even in the harshest of environments. Weeks passed, and their journey brought them closer to their goal. They followed leads and rumors, piecing together the movements of Kira's faction. Along the way, they encountered other survivors and travelers, each interaction providing valuable information and sometimes unexpected alliances. One such encounter occurred in a small, makeshift settlement. They had stopped to resupply and rest, and as they mingled with the locals, a grizzled old man approached them. "You're looking for the alien faction, aren't you?" he asked, his voice raspy from years of exposure to the elements. Kira nodded, her heart pounding with anticipation. Yes, have you seen them? The man nodded. They passed through here a few days ago, headed north towards the mountains. Relief and excitement coursed through Kira. Thank you, she said, clasping the man's hand. You've given us hope. As they prepared to leave, Marcus turned to Kira, his expression serious. The mountains are dangerous. We'll need to be extra careful. Kira nodded, determination etched on her face. I'm ready. Let's find my people. The journey into the mountains was the most challenging part of their trek. The terrain was rugged, and the weather grew increasingly unpredictable. They faced treacherous climbs, narrow passes, and the constant threat of avalanches. One particularly difficult day, they found themselves navigating a narrow ledge high above a ravine. The wind howled around them, and the path was slippery with ice. Kira's heart pounded in her chest as she carefully placed each foot, knowing that one wrong step could mean disaster. Marcus, leading the way, glanced back at her, his eyes filled with concern. Almost there. Just a bit further. Kira nodded, focusing on her footing. She was about to take another step when the ground beneath her crumbled, sending her sliding towards the edge. She cried out, her hands scrambling for purchase. Marcus reacted instantly, reaching out and grabbing her arm. With a grunt of effort, he pulled her back to safety. They both collapsed onto the ledge, breathing heavily. Thank you, Kira gasped, her heart still racing. Marcus smiled, his grip on her arm reassuring. Anytime. Let's keep moving. They pressed on, their bond forged even stronger by the trials they faced together. Each step brought them closer to their destination, and Kira's hope grew with each passing day. Finally, after weeks of arduous travel, they reached the summit of a mountain and looked out over a valley below. Nestled among the cliffs and surrounded by towering peaks was a hidden city, its architecture blending seamlessly with the natural landscape. It was unmistakably alien. Kira's heart soared with joy and relief. We made it, she whispered, tears of happiness filling her eyes. Marcus placed a hand on her shoulder, his expression filled with pride. You did it, Kira. You found your people. They descended into the valley, their arrival greeted with curiosity and cautious optimism. Kira's heart swelled as she recognized familiar faces among the crowd. Her people had survived, and they had found a new place to call home. As she and Marcus approached the central plaza, a figure stepped forward, regal and imposing. It was Thalen, the leader of her faction. His eyes widened in surprise and relief as he saw Kira. Kira, we thought you were lost, Thalen said, embracing her warmly. Kira hugged him back, her heart overflowing with emotion. I was, but this human saved me. Without him, I wouldn't be here. Thalen turned to Marcus, his expression serious. You have our gratitude, human. You saved one of our own. For that, you will always be welcome here. Marcus nodded, a humble smile on his face. Thank you. It was an honor to help. As the crowd began to disperse, Kira felt a sense of peace and belonging wash over her. She had found her people, and she had gained a true friend in Marcus. The journey had been long and difficult, but it had also been transformative. In the days that followed, Kira settled back into her community, sharing her experiences and reconnecting with her people. Marcus, true to his word, stayed by her side, helping where he could and learning about the alien way of life. Their bond, forged in the wasteland, remained strong. They had faced countless challenges together and had come out stronger for it. Kira knew that their journey was far from over, but she was ready to face whatever came next, knowing that she was not alone. As the sun set over the valley, casting a warm glow over the hidden city, Kira and Marcus stood side by side, looking out over the landscape. What's next for you, Marcus? Kira asked, her voice filled with curiosity. He smiled, his eyes reflecting the colors of the sunset. I'm not sure, but wherever the journey takes me, I know I'll have a friend by my side. Kira smiled, feeling a deep sense of contentment. And you always will. Together they watched as the stars began to appear, their light a reminder of the vastness of the universe and the endless possibilities that lay ahead. Their journey had been one of hardship and discovery, but it had also been one of friendship and hope. And in the end, that was all that mattered.